It is a pleasure to be here to talk to you about this important topic of preparing for retirement in an uncertain environment. I only wish I could actually be there with you in person. There are two aspects of this topic that I want to talk about, two perspectives. The first is that from of the individual. Given the public policies, the best estimates of retirement practices, and the evolution of health and technology, how should individuals best prepare themselves for their retirement? And the second topic is one of public policy, one facing societies, all societies. Given the evolution of health and technology again, development of the economy, how should society best prepare itself for retirement of its citizens? In thinking about both of these questions, there are multiple uncertainties, and that's what makes the subject so complicated. On the slide, I've listed a few of the critical uncertainties. There's demography. We don't know what's going to happen in birth rates. In most of the advanced countries, the birth rates have declined dramatically. That has important implications for public retirement systems that are based on pay-as-you-go, because there are fewer younger people to pay to generate revenue to pay for the retirement of the elderly. In some countries, like that of the United States, immigration has played an important role. And it is immigration that has actually been central to fiscal balance of the Social Security, the retirement pension system. But that can change. Health, and particularly life expectancy, is very important and very uncertain. When the United States created its Social Security system, retirement age 62, 65, life expectancy wasn't much longer than that. Now it's some 15 years beyond that. And for women, even longer than that. And advances in health have extended that. And that means that one has to prepare for a longer retirement period. And as a matter of public policy, as I'll comment shortly, it means we have to think more about how long people should be in the labor force. Technology is another important aspect. It affects every aspect of our economy, but including whether how much physical labor is necessary for work. It affects the structure of the economy, what kinds of jobs people do, and that affects how long they can remain in the labor force. So all of these characteristics I describe affect retirement age, dependency ratio, the ratio of people who are not working to the people who are working, the viability and future revisions of public programs. There has been some scaremongering in many countries that public pension programs cannot survive. That's absolutely wrong. The best estimates, for instance, in the United States, is that our retirement programs are very secure. But there will have to be revisions, revisions in tax rates, contribution rates, benefits, retirement age, and a critical point that I'll again emphasize later on is that programs have to be designed with flexibility, recognizing that there are these uncertainties, and as these uncertainties get resolved, as we find out that life expectancy is even longer, a good thing, we will have to increase our contributions or work longer. And because we're healthier, we may be able to work longer. One of the sources of uncertainty is inflation. We hadn't had rapid inflation for 50 years, and many people thought, though the era of inflation was gone, we don't have to think about it. But the post-pandemic inflation has reminded us that we can't be sure. It's another uncertainty. And public programs have provided for this inflation, but many private programs, retirement programs, don't. And that means that individuals, as they think about their retirement, those who rely on private programs have to think about the possibility of inflation. One aspect that often is ignored from a societal point of view is that there is uncertainty about the rate of increase in wages. That is affected by all the variables that I've described above. The increase in the rate of wages, of course, has important implications for the viability or for the adjustments that will need to be done to public programs that I referred to just a minute ago. But it also has implications for societal inequalities. If one has programs, retirement programs, where the elderly retirement depends on their earnings during their lifetime, and wage increases are very large, there will be large disparity in living standards between the elderly and the rest of the population. And that should be unacceptable. And that's why, for instance, in the U.S. public retirement program, our Social Security program, we have an adjustment that reduces, that allows, when current wages are increasing more rapidly, the benefits of retirees are increased. It tries to ameliorate some of these discrepancies. One of the implications of some of the changes that are going on is that there is an aging population, and this is true in all countries, and also in the Republic of China and Taiwan. And in terms of inflation versus wage growth, we can also see that inflation has been outpacing wage growth. These just illustrate some of the changes that I mentioned just a minute ago. I now want to turn to some of the basic principles in thinking about how individuals can best manage the uncertainties that they face. There are 5 principles that I want to emphasize. The first is called diversification. Put simply, don't put all your eggs in the same basket. When individuals invest privately, it's important that they diversify their investments. And one part of diversification is thinking about the relationship between your investments and your wage income. An example is, it doesn't make a lot of sense for an auto worker to put his money in auto stocks. equities of oil companies, because if those companies do poorly, if people decide they don't want to have as many cars, his job may be at jeopardy. He may be laid off or face early retirement. But if he's invested in equities of the auto companies, exactly in those circumstances where money is particularly valuable, his investments will be doing particularly poorly. So this is the first principle, diversification. And diversification includes between what economists refer to as human capital and financial capital. The second basic principle is don't think that you can beat the market unless you have inside information. And even when you have inside information, recognize that someone may have had that same information a little bit before you, and the prices already of the shares have already gone up. That's why I think it makes most sense to buy, in the United States, we call it the S&P 500, a set of shares that embraces the whole market, or at least a large fraction of the markets. The third is identify the risks that one faces, and to the extent that one can, insure against them. I mentioned already inflation risk. Here, there are inflation index securities in some countries, like the United States. Unfortunately, Taiwan doesn't have these yet. I think as a matter of public policy, it should. The fourth thing is transaction costs matter. Firms are in the business of making money, and they may charge a little bit, 10 basis points, 20 basis points, 50 basis points. It all seems really small, but when accumulated year after year, the difference between a investment that has a 10 basis point transaction cost, a financial fee, and one that has 100 basis points adds up to a lot. It can decrease the monthly income that one gets from one's retirement account by as much as 40%. Finally, risk changes over time, and so should one's portfolio. One aspect of this risk changing over time is that one's human capital risk is reduced over time. As you get to be retirement, there's no risk on human capital. You know what your income from working has been. But when you're younger, you don't know. And so that means that there needs to be, one needs to take a holistic view looking at both your human capital and financial capital together. And that means that if your human capital risk is going down, you have greater ability to bear financial risk. At the same time, there are high levels of cyclical variability in returns, and market values may be more important in later years. You can't wait until, when you're very old, you can't wait until the economy recovers, and that militates for more concern about financial risk as one gets older. One of the things that we've recognized more recently is the need for flexibility. Participation is important, but elderly people need more flexibility. One has to try to design society where there are part-time participation options. And this is of especially important concern given the aging population that I noted earlier. And all of these considerations are of particular concern for Taiwan. I say that partly because Taiwan has a markedly lower labor force participation, and especially of the elderly, than other countries. And on this slide, I've shown some numbers that illustrate this. For the over 65, Taiwan's labor force participation is 14%, Korea's 48%, Singapore 41.5%, Japan 34%, even the United States is 24%. And there are equally large disparities in the age group 60 to 64. So finally, I want to conclude by thinking about reforms in public programs. It's important to have large public pension programs with inflation indexing, smoothing out intergenerational inequalities, and that means we are likely to need a partly pay-as-you-go, partly self-financed system. Government funds, I think, can be invested in equities, and those equities itself can be used as part of growth policies, or what are called modern industrial policies. The public programs need to be structured to encourage individuals to stay in the labor force, and they have to have flexible design to reflect the enormous uncertainties that I've talked about already. Finally, let me say that public programs need to be complemented by efficient private programs and public options. One-size-fits-all programs don't work. One needs flexibility to reflect the different circumstances of different individuals. Regulations are required to ensure transparency in private and public programs. There are marked advantages of defined benefit programs, retirement programs, over defined contribution programs. And finally, I've been a great advocate of what are called the public option, allowing individuals who want additional retirement benefits to contribute additional funds to public retirement programs. This provides competition to the private sector, it enhances efficiency, and it allows individuals to get the additional benefits, such as inflation insurance, that are not typically provided by the private sector. The uncertainties that I described that are so salient in the private in retirement create a great deal of fear, especially as people approach retirement. One of our great presidents, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, talked about the importance of freedom from fear. Retirement security is important for all individuals, and it is a collective responsibility to ensure that all have at least a modicum of retirement security. Such freedom from fear allows individuals to better live up to their potential during their working life and to live a better life in the retirement. Thank you.